Hello everyone, good morning. Today I'm going to cover the basics about the communication which are applicable to any OSCE exam, be it MRCS, MRCP or anything. Yes, the communication remains the same and you have to apply your common sense, and definitely you need good English, not if it is like a native person, but at least it should be comprehensible and easy to understand. So rather than going into the very complicated language or being fumbling, it's better to stick to the basic things which I'll cover in this particular presentation today. It's not going to cover the details of various scenarios, but yes, we'll come up with those kind of specific scenarios in next videos. Today I'll give you the general idea about the communication. So what are the basics of this effective communication, the principles? So you have to be empathic but assertive. That means you have to acknowledge the person's emotions to whom you are talking, but also you have to be confident enough to give the impression that whatever you are knowing or not knowing, you are very clear in your mind. So you have to be honest. If you don't know the answer, say I don't know. If you are knowing the answer, it should be coming through your mouth like a confident way. So it's not that somebody takes an impression that you are not very much sure what you are talking about. And being empathic means being aware about opposite person's emotions. So whether they are feeling angry, whether they are feeling happy, whether they are in pain, whether they are just listening to you. So you have to acknowledge that. And how do you do that? Is two things, verbal and non-verbal communication. So that we will see in further slides. Second most important thing, no interruption. So when the opposite person is talking, you have to show that you are actively listening. How do you do that? It's just a common sense that you maintain your eye-to-eye contact with them. You really give attention to what they are speaking, not just for the sake of showing that you are listening, but you have to really understand what they are speaking, and you don't have to interrupt them in between. So if they are sometimes it happens that in scenario a role player or a patient, they are continuously talking, and then you are like finding it difficult, you are feeling the pressure of time. But it's really important to understand that listening actively will gain you marks rather than interrupting will deduct your marks. So that is active listening, and it is always a bilateral channel. So you have to communicate. How do you communicate? In non-verbal ways. When somebody else is speaking, that makes a difference. So that's what we will cover here. And definitely you have to use your common sense. And how do you use that I cannot teach you. Yeah, but whenever you are communicating, just observe the people who are communicating very well. So you must have seen the people who are very good at public speaking, or they are very good narrators. How do they use their body language? That is also important. So we cannot learn each and everything in just the the span of time for the exam. But yes, what we can do, we can at least mimic them. And even if we learn around few percentage of their skills, that will improve ours, and that will improve your passing marks, definitely. So for exam purpose in the OSCE, what are the components? So I'll cover it here, like how to begin, how during the conversation or any station, how do you communicate, and how the examiners are watching you, and what they are watching for actually, that you have to understand. First of all, you have to wash hands. That is one of the important aspect of patient safety, hand hygiene. As you know that there are 5 steps of hand hygiene. There are 5 different scenarios where you have to wash your hands. Here, before touching the patient, after touching the patient, before doing any procedure, after doing any procedure, or after touching the patient's environments. These are 5 basic scenes where you have to wash your hands. In OSCE, you have to understand that we are mimicking that clinical scenario, though it's not real scenario, but we are mimicking it. So we have to make sure that you wash your hands, and your examiner and role player or patient, they are actually taking note of that. So if you are washing your hands actually, but you are not showing it to others, it's not gaining you marks. So you have to understand that you have to wash hand and make sure that people are noticing it. Then as you enter in the station, you have to introduce yourself. People make themselves confused about that, how to speak that, whether to speak that I am Dr. So and so and I am exam candidate, or I am a surgical registrar, or I am whatsoever. So make it clear in your mind what you are going to speak in your exam. There will be some scenarios where your role will be defined and you will be given that in the scenario only. So you have to use that. If you are given that you are SHO, you have to say that I am SHO. If you are saying that you are CT1 or CT2, you have to say that I am CT1 or CT2, whatever. If it is not given, it is okay to say that I am Dr. So and so and I am one of the exam candidates today. Then you have to check the identity. Again, it is important for the patient's safety. So you are not actually mixing patient's identity to do any history or any counseling or any procedure on the wrong person. So you have to check their identity by asking them their name and age, and in some scenarios you also ask their NHS numbers, but it's not relevant in this MRCS exam particularly. Then you have to set agenda of the meeting. So whether it is a procedure skills, then you have to explain the procedure. Whether it is history taking, then you have to start with that I have been asked to take a history, or I have been asked to consult you, and then I'll gain the further information from you, which will help us making a better decision and better treatment plan for you. Whatever, if it is just a communication with colleague over the phone or over one-to-one, then you have to start with the S bar, that is situation, background, assessment and recommendation. All those details we cannot cover here in one presentation today, but yes, we will come up with different videos. So just pay attention to that, the basics. Then gain permission. If you are talking to the patient, if you are going to do any examination, then you have to ask for permission. If you are even going for the history taking, then also verbally you have to ask if whether it is okay, if they are ready to give the information. You have to do signposting whenever you are going for something personal like social habits or personal sexual history. Then you have to start with asking that whether is it okay for them, are they feeling comfortable about that to talk to you regarding those things. Then only you should start questioning them. It's not that you just go and start asking these questions. It might not give a good impression of communication from your side, and sometimes they are trained to outrightly reject your questions or to change the direction of a scenario when you are starting in that way. Create a good rapport. How do you create a good rapport with your patients? That's the same in the scenario. You keep smiley face whenever it is applicable, not in a place where it is a serious condition, you have to break bad news, or you have to be like something which is not a good scenario for the patient. Then you can't smile, of course. But here, whenever applicable, you have to start with a smile. You have to start with a positive note. And then throughout the conversation, when you pay good attention to their concerns, when they are feeling pain or they are going through some difficult time, then acknowledging that, feeling sorry for that will help you create a good rapport with them. Then provide comfort. How do you provide comfort? Just verbally, here you have to make it sure that you are acknowledging their emotions, you are feeling the same way, not like by saying that I understand. No one can understand another person's pain, but acknowledging that yes, I know it is difficult, I know you are going through a lot, I can see that it is a tough time for you, and I feel sorry for that. So these words of solace can provide comfort to anyone, even in the real life. You just try, even in your home, if you are just appreciating or acknowledging your parents, your wife or your husband's thoughts or emotions, then the way they change towards you, the way they communicate or they think about you, it changes. So it's a day-to-day practice. It's not only about the exam. Just to be a good person, you need to understand these few skills. Then chaperone. So whenever there are guidelines also in some trust how to use chaperone, when to use chaperone. But most important is that when there is opposite gender, like if you are a male doctor and you are examining a female patient, if you are a female doctor and you are examining a male patient, then you should always say that chaperone is available, and then if you need, we can provide. And if it is like an intimate examination, then of course you have to have a chaperone with you. You can't do that without presence of a chaperone. Who can be a chaperone? It can be a nurse, it can be a qualified or a designated chaperone, it can be the examiner in the situation of exam. So you can they might just give you the green signal that okay, the chaperone is there, you just go ahead. During the interaction, so once you have begun well, then understand that half the battle is won. Now you have to just maintain that by non-verbal communication. Allow them to speak. Once you have started in history, if you ask them, how can I help you, or what is the problem today, so why have you been to the hospital today? Or if you are given a scenario where the GP has already written a letter, then start with that, yes, I have gone through the GP letter and then I know this is the situation, but I would like to know more from you. Then they will start speaking, and then make a note of each and everything. Note means can be the notes in your brain, in your memory. It can be through the pencil and paper, which they provide you during the exam. You can write if it is required, but don't waste too much time writing down and then just leaving the link between the communication, which is a good communication by eye-to-eye contact and other things. Sometimes it happens in the pressure of exam. You cannot listen well and you might just not give a good summary, but that's okay, rather than losing the marks on communication. So I would say if you pay good attention while listening to the patient, it gives you more marks than rather just making notes and then summarizing very well. Maintain eye-to-eye contact. It cannot be overemphasized. Nodding. Whenever you are listening, then you have to show something that the way you are listening. Sometimes some people do not nod their head and give the mask-like face. Then we don't understand whether they are actually listening to us or not. Or sometimes just staring look that makes the opposite person uncomfortable. So you have to understand that by your eyes, your facial expression, your nodding of the head, or the posture even, that makes a big difference how you listen to other person. Free your hands. Don't try to just wiggle your fingers. Just don't keep them in your pocket, or just do something which shows your anxiety on that. So keep your hands free, relaxed, and whenever possible, try to use them in a positive way, so that shows that you are a good communicator. Your facial expressions, your movement of hands can give a lot information about your status of mind right now. If you are feeling anxious, they will show. If you are feeling confident, that will show. And as you proceed through the conversation or the examination or the procedure skills or whatever station is there, remain professional, though being more interactive and human. How do you do that? If somebody feels pain, you acknowledge, you try to stop. Even from the beginning, you ask them whether they are comfortable or if they have pain, and always warn them. Tell them that if any of my steps is causing pain to you, please report to me. I'll stop then and there. This one sentence will make a big difference in your rapport building, in your marks, in your evaluation. One sentence, that if you feel pain, please let me know. I will stop there and then. Okay? Before beginning. And if you notice during the examination or anything, if you notice that they are feeling pain, stop and act accordingly. If it is a scenario where you have given local anesthesia and still they are not completely numb, then tell that I would like to wait for a few more minutes. And if it's not possible again, then I may give you more analgesia or more anesthesia. Always ask permission again as needed. You have asked for permission in the beginning that if they are okay for examination or history taking or whatever. But again, during the scenario, if you feel that still you need some more permission, like if you are going to ask for the personal questions, if you are going to ask about the smoking and other stuff. If you are going to do examination which might be painful if you feel so, like in particular if you are doing a cardiac system exam but you need to check for the jugular venous reflex, hepatojugular reflex, and you want to press the tummy of the patient, then you have to understand that you may ask again if it is okay to touch their tummy. If you may ask again if they are if they are in pain, you have to stop. You don't do that. If they tell that yes, they are already in pain, you don't do that. You just tell the examiner that they are in pain, so I have not done that. You will get the full marks for that. Inform them everything which is beyond their vision and before touching the patient. So sometimes happen you start with the inspection, then in inspection you might have to go on the back side of the patient. So they don't know what you are going to do. So you have to inform that I am going to your back, I'm going to do this, I'm going to just take a look from behind. That makes them comfortable. That thing you have to do. If you're going to touch the patient after inspection, then tell them I'm going to touch you now in this part. Is it okay? Or if again, if you are having any pain, let me know, please. And while just asking is not enough about the pain, you have to look to their eyes, to their face for the expression of tenderness and everything. So these are the simple few things which you do correctly, you get the good marks. If you don't do it correctly, then people say that I did a station very well, but I could not pass that. Why? Because you are not attentive to these minor details. That is the only thing. Where your communication helps you. Of course, in history taking, examination, during the procedure, and the dedicated stations for communication are there, like with colleague or with patient or relative. So you can understand the weightage of communication in this exam is too much. And if you don't notice that, if you don't practice it well, you are not going to clear it with good marks. Even if you think that you are very good in your knowledge, if you are a very good doctor, but if you are not up to the mark in the communication part, you might not go through well. So the golden tips, yes, what you have to do to improve it. Practice with your colleagues, practice with your peers, practice while you are in ward, practice while you are in your OPD. Do the same thing which you are going to do during the exam. And to finish it fast, keep it slow. It's a counterintuitive advice, but yes, when you try to hush or rush through the things, you will forget the things, you will fumble around in your mind and your language that what to do, what I'm supposed to do. And sometimes you just figure it out that there were 10 steps of doing it well and you have done 8, you are forgetting 2 and you are being stressed about those 2 and you are losing marks on the 8 which you already did. So understand that being calm, being slow, being patient is going to give you more marks rather than trying to finish everything in that one go. The exam scenario where you have to finish examination or history taking in 6 minutes sometimes is not enough. So sometimes you will feel the pressure that, oh, I want to finish it fast. But in an attempt of doing so, you are losing the marks of communication. So please make it sure that whatever you are doing it correctly. Even if you leave some things behind. In my exam also, I could not finish the examination stations. There were scenarios where even it was not possible to read the complete scenario and understand it well in the 1 minute target. Then you might do some mistakes, but you have to understand that whatever you are doing, if you are doing it appropriately, you are going to get marks. In next few videos, I would come on the specific scenarios. How do you take consent for a particular procedure? How do you take history in general? How do you communicate with the angry patient or relative? How communication is helping you while you are examining a patient. Few things I have covered today, but yes, the details will follow in the specific videos. And you can always put a request in the comments of these videos. What would you like me to cover next? I will try my best to do it for you. So please subscribe to this channel. Thanks for watching this video and share with your friends who are preparing for the exam. Again, I would like to help. This is just I'm trying to give it back to my society. Ultimately, if somebody learns well, somebody goes well back in the society, they are spreading the knowledge, they are spreading the help. So ultimately, indirectly, we can help each other. Thank you so much.